Coming up tonight on CTV News, the inquest into the deaths of the victims of February's earthquake is resumed. Welcome to CTV News, I'm Kenita Knight. The deaths of 13 CTV staff members were the topic of this morning's inquest, followed by 8 staff members from the clinic, which was also housed in the CTV building. Emily Cooper was at today's inquest.
The inquest into some of the victims of Christchurch's February earthquake today resumed, after being postponed due to June's earthquakes. The inquest today began with 13 CTV staff members. 3 other CTV staff members, Matty Beaumont, Sean Lucas and Valeri Volnov, had already been identified by a previous inquest in May into the unidentified 9 victims from the CTV building. The inquest is being held to find out what caused injuries to each victim and where the victims sustained the injuries. Coroner Gordon Martinger presided over today's inquest. This morning opened with Detective Inspector Paul Kench giving evidence in relation to the quakes, the same as the previous June inquest.
Situation overview. At 12:51 p.m. on Tuesday the 22nd of February 2011, Christchurch, New Zealand suffered an earthquake measuring 6.3 on the Richter scale. The earthquake was followed by a number of aftershocks throughout the day. This earthquake was centred 2 kilometres west of Lyttelton and 10 kilometres southeast of the centre of Christchurch. Multiple fatalities occurred and serious injuries were sustained by a large number of people. It is believed 181 people died as a result from injuries sustained or attributed to the earthquake.
Detective Inspector Kench praised the heroic actions of both the emergency services and community members. And he reiterated the fact that search and rescue aims to save the most people in the shortest amount of time. But he says that search and rescue operation soon moved to a recovery operation. The inquest today attempted to answer questions for family members. However, there are still questions around whether some died from the earthquake or whether some died from the building collapse following the earthquake. The inquest started today with those who died in the CTV building, which suffered almost a complete collapse and caught fire. 115 people died from the collapse and the subsequent fire. Those who died in other areas of the city will be covered later on in the week. Of the 181 victims, 172 have been formally identified.
Where possible, DVI members record the geographic location of each victim found during the search phase, utilising physical addresses or landmarks, such as street addresses or registration numbers and/or GPS coordinates. In some cases, the location at which a victim is found by DVI search teams can differ from the actual location where they sustained the fatal injuries. As previously mentioned, the immediate aftermath of the Christchurch earthquake saw rescue efforts undertaken by emergency services personnel, construction workers and members of the public alike in the desperate attempt to save lives. Some people, both living and deceased, were dragged from under collapsed buildings and from damaged vehicles by rescuers and carried to a place where they could be assessed and given immediate first aid if necessary.
Detective Inspector Kench went through the DVI process and how victims could have been identified. He says a lot was going on at the time and the rescue may not have been controlled. He says many members of the public were helping with rescues.
At the time the earthquake struck and the rescue effort occurred, there was many members of our community, not just law enforcement or emergency services personnel, doing their very, very best to go in and rescue people. So obviously there was a lot going on and it wasn't a controlled situation as would normally be the case in what I would term a crime scene. Normally that's done under some controlled manner, but this being the situation it was sort of all hands to the pump and everyone was doing their very, very best to rescue people. And I'm I believe that on some occurrences in the first few hours, there were many bodies being pulled from the rubble, not just one or two isolated incidents.
Detective Inspector Kench went over the injuries sustained by the victims and when and where they were found. For CTV staff, body recovery spanned a week. Inspector Kench says it's the belief of police that all CTV staff were found to have died on or about the 22nd of February from injuries sustained from the earthquake. The inquest today finished with 8 staff members from the clinic and will look at the other victims through the rest of the week. The inquest is due to finish on Friday.
Coming up after the break, how the animals at the SPCA are faring after the quake. Welcome back. Canterbury people have had their share of stress and uncertainty in the past year, and so have their pets. Samantha Early visited the SPCA and saw that they still have reason to celebrate.
After a busy few months dealing with the aftermath of the February quake, it was time for the Canterbury SPCA, based in Hornby, to have something to celebrate. They held a big barn open day on Saturday to officially open their new animal barn, which will be used for educational presentations about animal care and welfare and for bigger farm animals. Previously, all large animals which came to the SPCA's attention had to be dealt with off-site.
We actually deal with quite a lot of horse complaints and horse issues, horse welfare. We have sheep, goats, pigs, you name it, we look after it. So, a lot of people think of SPCA as being a cat and dog facility, but we do get all types of welfare issues with all different types of animals.
In the 3 weeks after February 22, the SPCA was getting up to 200 calls a day from pet owners and received more than 200 stray or abandoned animals. This meant they had to put off their open day until now.
We actually built the barn in October last year, and then of course we had September's earthquake, so we've had to postpone our barn opening for quite some months. We had planned it for March and February hit us, so the guys here at the centre have just been flat out with animal emergencies up until quite recently, and so now we've finally had time to just celebrate, kick our heels up and have some fun.
About 2,000 people attended Saturday's event, and as well as the animals, there was face painting, pony rides and dog agility demonstrations, as well as plenty of food.
We also had cupcakes. We've got Cupcake Day today, Cupcake Day for SPCA, so people are out there cooking cupcakes and selling them and donating the proceeds back to SPCA, so we had quite a few stalls with cupcakes.
And with good memories of the weekend behind them, the SPCA is now gearing up for its next challenge.
Especially leading up to cat and kitten season, we've got, and from about November to February, we get inundated with cats who are pregnant and lots of kittens. So if we can home as many of these beautiful animals as we can now, then we'll have plenty of space to cope with that influx in a few short months, yeah.
Residents in quake-hit eastern suburbs are still getting their coffee fix, as journalism students from the University of Canterbury found out.
In a time of uncertainty with red stickers, insurance payments and geotech reports, the people of Eastern Christchurch can still rely on damn good coffee. Greg Quinn, in his decked-out 75 Bedford on Stanmore Road, is making sure the masses don't suffer from caffeine withdrawals, and his patrons are loving it. How many coffees are you buying today?
5.
5?
Yeah.
And then why is it?
Birthday shout. Yeah, and it's freaking cold.
Yeah. Are they good coffees?
Oh, great coffee. Yeah, great coffee.
I thought it was awesome because the only other coffee shop on my way to work is McDonald's. And so when I saw his van, I was like, sweet, I'm stopping. And when I saw the EFTPOS sign, I was like, sweet as well, because it's mobile and has EFTPOS, so you can stop and it's good service as well.
Quinn's Bedford is an old fire engine that's been converted into the Southern Espresso Rescue Unit, a mobile coffee house, which he says beats a real job.
It gives me the flexibility that I need to live the lifestyle that I like.
Yeah, so and you're enjoying it?
I love it, yeah.
It's also filling a void left in the area since the February earthquake.
Business has picked up since the earthquake. I mean, there was a cafe about 100 metres up the road, a really nice little cafe called Piccolo, and that's been demolished just a couple of days ago actually, which is quite sad. But yeah, since the earthquake, it's kind of hard to say something positive's come out of such a negative thing, but for me it kind of has.
As well as coffee, the espresso unit's patrons also come for the good company.
Knew my name, remembered my daughter's name, and she's 10 during the school holidays, and she was actually really impressed by that. And he's friendly, his service, he's got quite a personality to him.
The people in the eastern suburbs, like anybody else, need their coffee fix. And Quinn should expect the majority of these to return, not just for the coffee, but as service with a smile.
$69 million is still being distributed around Canterbury for earthquake relief, says Chair of the Red Cross Canterbury Earthquake Commission, the Honourable Sir John Henson. Now, the commission was launched on around about the 2nd of March, and it's coming up to the 6-month point. How's it been going so far?
It's quietened down quite a lot, as you would imagine, as we move further away from the earthquake. But it's still very busy, and we've paid out a huge sum of money so far. We've had in excess of 69 million donated. We've got about 29 million left. There was 20 million, of course, from the September fund as well. So all up, this is probably one of the biggest charitable funds in New Zealand's history, which just speaks volumes for the generosity of New Zealanders, and a lot of money from overseas have come into the fund.
That's absolutely incredible. So where's that 40 million gone so far?
The biggest bulk went in the initial hardship grant, which was for people who had to leave their homes or without services for 7 days or more. 52,000 applications, and we paid out in excess of $44 million for those grants, all within a very short time. Our first grants went out just after the 5th of March. We were up and running as a commission, largely replicating the September Commission, but with additional members on the commission, all of whom are independent of Red Cross. They administer it at their cost, but they appoint an independent commission to decide how the funds are spent.
Okay.
So we've been quite busy around all of that sort of stuff, but the biggest one was the hardship grant. We've worked through grants helping children who had to shift schools, parents who had to take their children further from school, people with damage to insulation, compromised insulation, the elderly, children, and people with medical needs. And at the moment we've got 2 live grants. We approved one of $500 per household for people who are still having to use chemical or portaloos, because 90 days or more of that, we think they still need a bit of a lift up. And there's another one that sort of slipped through the gaps really of the school grants, in that we found a number of parents were sending their children to friends or relatives out of Christchurch to attend school for the rest of the year, and we felt they needed a bit of help as well.
Okay, so how much are they getting?
It's $350 per family for those ones. So similar to the grants we paid for people who had to shift schools in Christchurch, or who had to travel a lot further to a school because of, and that extended to preschools as well, because there was a lot of preschools so badly damaged they effectively had to close.
Okay, so as you say, these are 2 new grants, the one with people who have been without services for the last 3 months. What are you hoping they're going to spend this money on, the $500 on?
Red Cross doesn't ask that question. Red Cross has vast experience in disasters all around the world, and the one thing that they have learnt, and we learnt very quickly after the September one, that people who are badly affected by an earthquake or another natural disaster, their need is cash. We don't ask the question. If they want to replace a TV, that's fine. If they want to have a weekend away, that's fine. It's just to help them cope. Our reports back from many people who've communicated us, are grateful for the grants they've got from Red Cross, that they've been spent on things that have been damaged in their homes, or just to get away for a break with family who are suffering. The other thing that Red Cross has done that hasn't garnered perhaps as much publicity as it should, but we have distributed wind-up torch radio, phone chargers, computer chargers, etc., through very generous donations from corporates in America through a large number of schools in Christchurch.
Coming up after the break, your local weather. Welcome back. A group called 350 Aotearoa is calling on Cantabrians to consider how they would spend a day without using fossil fuels.
Have a think about what you did today. Now have a think about how you would have done that without using fossil fuels. That's what a group called 350 Aotearoa is asking New Zealanders to consider on September 24th as part of an international event called Moving Planet, a day without fossil fuels. The group is named 350 because they want to get the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere back to 350 parts per million, which they say needs to happen as soon as possible to avoid major negative impacts of climate change. In Christchurch, many small events are due to be held, culminating in a speakers forum in the evening.
We're organising, I guess like a forum, I guess you can say a forum. Everybody knows about climate change, everybody knows it's scary and things like that, but what we're doing is there's a lot of exciting things happening. So we're getting some really cool speakers out to talk about positive things that are happening in their fields of expertise.
The group is aiming to keep things positive and show people what they can do to reduce their impact on the environment.
I think we're trying to bring the positive back in and get people keen on it in a positive way. No, hey, anyone can do this. This is pretty simple. Look, solar power isn't that hard to do, or, putting this in, look, everyone else has done it, it's pretty simple, or getting a community garden together or something like that. We can make it positive for people, and I think that's what we're trying to do this year round and get people not so scared of the idea.
So what would a day without fossil fuels look like?
Just being aware of what you're using in terms of energy-wise, knowing where it comes from and knowing where it's going, and knowing that if you're going to be able to use that again, and I guess making everything a little bit more localised as well.
It's really important just to get the word out and just to show that you don't need to live in a tent to have a good lifestyle and to be sustainable. There's ways that you can live a sustainable lifestyle and still enjoy a really good tier of living. So it is difficult, but it's exciting, so it should be fun.
Events already in the pipeline include a bike race and community garden day, with the forum rounding off in the evening.
So we're seeing things happen around the individual communities. This is due to ease of access and things like that, with Christchurch. And we'd at the end of the day maybe wrap it up with a cool forum that we're holding. So just wrap up a really awesome day of positive action and let the communities do what they want to do and come along to this thing at the end of the day.
More information about the different events happening on Moving Planet Day can be found at 350.org.nz.
The New Zealander of the Year awards are coming up, and National Awards Manager Emma McDonald says it is to recognise the community.
It's an opportunity to recognise individuals and communities throughout the entire country that provide opportunities for our communities. They're not necessarily well-known people, but they may be, but more than likely there's an unsung hero in the backyard who's achieving amazing things. So the New Zealander of the Year Awards were set up to find and recognise these people, and the recognition often goes a long way for them in opening the doors and achieving bigger and better things.
For an example, we actually had Sir Paul Callaghan on the programme several weeks ago. Now, he was 2011's New Zealander of the Year. Is it 2011 or 2010?
He was 2011, yes.
So why was he chosen as the New Zealander of the Year?
He is a real leader in his field of nanotechnology, which to most people is scientific research, a world leader, and he has achieved many, many things in that field. He was quite an unknown name until he became New Zealander of the Year. I know for a fact that the title and the accolade has definitely helped in his research and helped getting his voice out there. He's also been quite a vocalist in addressing the talent of New Zealanders going overseas and some ideas of what can be done to bring them home. So he's an all-round hero. He epitomises the strength and spirit and the dedication that a lot of New Zealanders have to achieve what he really wanted to do.
Okay. Now, Emma, there are different categories or different awards. Let's go through these. There's 5 different ones. Let's go through them.
Well, there's the first one, the big one, which is the New Zealander of the Year. So that is a winner that could be chosen from any of the nominations. The second category is the Senior New Zealander of the Year, which was a lady from South Canterbury, from Fairlie, Alison McNeil. So she runs a rest home called Maria, and she supported a lot of people after the earthquake free of charge. We also have the Coca-Cola Young New Zealander of the Year, which is for recipients over 15 and under 30. Young people inspiring and motivating and leading. They could be an individual, they could be motivating in groups, they could be a talent in any field. We also have the Community of the Year. Last year, or this year, it was the Gippsland Valley Community Association. They achieved some amazing things for such a small organisation and really, really epitomises true Kiwi spirit and what you can do with such few people. And we have the Local Heroes Awards. So up to 250 medals are awarded around the country in 15 regions. We recently had Christchurch's Local Heroes presentation in Hagley Park. It was deferred in March, obviously because of the earthquake. That's a real opportunity to recognise those local heroes. They get medals, certificates. The winners all get $5,000. And the local heroes also go forward to be Local Hero of the Year as well. So a really good opportunity.
That's CTV News. I'm Kanita Knight.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.